In today's gospel, my friends, we hear the story of St. Thomas, often called Doubting Thomas. But in the Gospels, they call him the Didymus. Didymus, meaning the twin. But there's no mention of his twin. Who's his twin? It's probably us. It's probably us, my friends. St. Thomas made two very crucial mistakes in his life. And we all do the same thing, or at least we have to be careful not to do the same thing. The first thing, St. Thomas was filled with doubt, grief. His whole life was turned upside down. He gave everything to follow Jesus. He dies on the cross, and his life was a failure. His life was a failure. There's an article I read this past week about Penn State and Miami. And of course, that was probably Joe Paterno's greatest game that he ever coached in his life. But the defense, Penn State's defense, is really what won that game. And Miami, who was heavily favored, had a wonderful quarterback, Vinny Testaverde, and they thought that he would win, but he was held. After the game, the news reporters did not go to the coaches or the running backs or the quarterbacks who they normally go to. They went to the Penn State linebackers, who they feel won the game. And this is what those Penn State linebackers said. Miami's receivers just didn't want to catch the ball. They heard footsteps all night long, and they just didn't want to get hit. What's the job of a receiver? To catch the ball, right? Catch the ball. But they're concentrating on getting hit, aren't they? That's why I don't play football, my friends, I play golf. Because I wouldn't be able to get that out of my brain. But that's part of football. And it's part of life, my friends, and I get caught up in this myself as well. We hear footsteps all the time when we're going through a tough time, aren't we? Either doubt or uncertainties or problems or adversities, and all we hear is footsteps. Our whole minds and our whole lives are consumed by problems. We'll never catch a football if we hear footsteps, will we, my friends? Never. You know? And that's all he did. That's all St. Thomas was focusing on. All his problems. You know, my friends, we need to change our mindsets, especially with our faith. When doubts permeate our life, what do we do? What do we do? We need to start reading. When's the last time you read a Catholic or a book or an article on the faith? The Catholic Church. Something positive. In those times of uncertainty and in times of doubt, it's crucial to change your mindset. Read something positive about the church and our faith. Pray more. Pray more, my friends, not less. Pray more. Volunteer. Get out of our minds so we don't hear those footsteps. The other thing was, where was Thomas the first time when Jesus appeared? He was nowhere to be seen. Nowhere to be seen. There's a woman called Jean. Jean struggled with her weight her whole life. Her whole life, she struggled with her weight. Finally, she and a couple of her friends got together and they created a diet. Created a diet. But that's not only what she did. She and her friends started meeting once a week. They would weigh themselves and they would discuss throughout what they ate throughout the week, and they would support each other. Jean Nidetch, she's the founder of what? Weight Watchers, sure. Weight Watchers. It's the most successful diet there is out there. Why? Because it has three things. Most diets have one thing. You stick to this food plan and you'll lose weight. That's great. That's great. Who can do that? Weight Watchers has three things. The diet, accountability, and support, right? You have to weigh in every week and whatever they do. I don't know what all they do. But they have a support team in place too. St. Thomas chose to walk away from that, didn't he? And many people today that are going through problems with the faith, my friends, you know what the first thing they do? Walk away from the church. That's insane. That's insane. If you're having problems, my friends, with doubt and faith and questions in life, you need to stay here. This is the place where you need to be. But so often we act like ridiculous St. Thomas and run away, and we think our doubt's going to help. It's going to increase. It's just going to increase. We get a diet here, my friends. We get a living person that we receive to help us and give us strength. We have accountability here. You can't come to church on a weekly basis without saying to yourself, what area in my life do I need to change? And the third is there's some support system here. There's friends here that we can support each other in our faith. It's a beautiful thing. St. Thomas made those two huge mistakes, my friends. Chose to listen to those footsteps and walk away from his support systems. What happens, my friends, when we don't do that? When we're going through doubt and uncertainties and problems, my friends, and we pick up a book, a religious book, and start reading it, or we start praying more, we start being more faithful with our prayers and things. What happens? It's like an oyster. There's something in an oyster's life, my friends, that causes incredible distress and a catastrophe. A little grain will come into an oyster. Little grain of sand. It tortures an oyster when sand gets in there. It causes incredible distress. Now, if that happens to us, we get something that like a grain of sand in our lives, my friends, what do? We grumble, we complain, we rebel, don't we? We're good at that. That's what we do. We hear footsteps. What's the oyster do? You guys should know this. Yeah, it creates a milky substance. A milky substance. You know what that milky substance does? It covers the sharp corners of that sand so it's not so irritant. And that over time, of course, it keeps producing this to get it thicker and thicker. And then, of course, the pearl is made. See? And that's what reading does. That's what prayer does. That's what being faithful here to church, my friends. It forces those problems, the doubt, right out of our life. Right out of our life. It's a beautiful lesson that we can all learn, my friends. That oyster turned a grain of distress into a pearl. Misfortune into blessings. And pain and distress into something of great beauty. And if we do that, my friends, we can turn our doubts and our uncertainties into a great and courageous faith. God bless you.